Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. This is Carol from the Big Cat Rescue. Just kidding, this is Mark. And I'm happy to tell you that this is the first installment of your midterm 2 review session. So before we get started, I'd like to make this into like one of those fun interactive 90s like learning channels. So without further ado, and like I'll be like flying through space, like shooting like lasers of like knowledge out of my hands, and we're gonna like go into like a bus and like become like microscopic and like basically the Magic School Bus, but like not that. It'll be like the fantasy van pool, like copyright. That's a thing. Yeah, we can't do that. All right, but like you're gonna learn something cool with me. Okay, enough of that. So what these videos are going to be is basically like little 15 to 20-minute installments where I'm going to break down some more difficult concepts for you guys so that you guys, if you need to like review any small basic or any of these small concepts, you can just look at this little video and like just understand it and learn from it and glean from it. That way, hopefully if I take things a little slower for you, then maybe you can get this stuff and don't have to worry about it on the exam. So today's first installment is going to be about STRs, or short tandem repeats. So before I begin, I want to kind of acquaint you guys with what I'm going to be using as for my DNA. So I chose Velcro. Velcro. Ooh, super fun. And it makes this like fun, that's like really weirdly satisfying. So just kind of keep that in mind and I'll explain everything. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to share you guys to my PowerPoint. So what I want you guys to see. So power of DNA evidence. So everyone has DNA. Everyone has it. You have it, I have it. Every living organism has DNA. Even bacteria have DNA. Even the dreaded coronavirus has some sort of nucleic or nuclear material that allows it to live and survive. The really cool thing about DNA is that because we all have it, if it's found at a crime scene in some way, then we can track you, we can find you, and I can build a statistic, which I'll talk about in a later installment, don't worry. We can use statistics to make an individualization about whose DNA that might be, all right? So I want you to take notice here. So what we say is DNA is in this right-handed, if you kind of look at the picture and you get your right hand, it's in this right-handed double helix. So double meaning that there's one strand here and there's a second strand going in the same direction. And between that are these little rungs to the ladder. So it kind of looks like a ladder if you kind of stretch it out and untwist it. So I want you to think of my Velcro as like that straightened out DNA. All right, here's one strand and here's another strand. Okay, so those four bases, you're seeing those four nucleotide bases. So what is a base necessarily? A base is a chemical or a kind of a building block that builds our DNA. It makes the rungs of the ladder, okay? And based on the order of those rings or those rungs of the ladder, then we actually have variation. What do I mean by that? Well, based on the order of adenine and guanine and thymine and cytosine, we have different things like different genes for our hair, our skin, and our eye color. All right. So what I'm showing you in blue, we call genes. Okay, not like blue jeans, not like the things that we all look good in, okay? But genes, Genes, genes. And what genes are basically areas in our DNA that control how we look or how we live. So I showed you 3 genes on how we look. There are genes that affect how we don't look, like lactose intolerance is affected by a gene. something on your DNA. The ability to see color or not is affected by, you guessed it, a gene, something in your DNA. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, alleles. What is an allele? I'm kind of adding on words here. An allele is how a gene is expressed or the form of a gene. And so I want you to think back, kind of think back to your high school biology, and you'll think of words like dominant and recessive. So hair color, like my hair, which is getting ridiculous without a barber. If you know a barber, let me know, because this is becoming a rat's nest. A very good looking rat's nest, I will say. Okay, no snide comments. Um, Hair color is formed by dominant and recessive genes, where brown color is dominant over blonde or redheads. That's recessive genes. You'll notice how we don't have many blondes or redheads as we do with brunettes and black haired people. Okay, that's because black and brown hair is dominant and blonde and redhead is recessive. So when you have someone who has, say, you see big B here, that's homozygous dominant. We're saying that a capital letter is a dominant letter. And when you see little b here, that's homozygous recessive. Little letters or non-capital letters are saying recessive, all right? Now here we have heterozygous. Hetero meaning different. Homozygous is the same. Homo means the same. Heterozygous means different, and that means that we have two different alleles. Now, why is that when I only have one, strand of DNA? Well, you have one strand of DNA from your father and one strand of DNA from your mother. For every chromosome, you have a sister chromosome, or you have a pair of chromosomes. So the human body has 23 pairs of these. So you have 23 pairs of chromosomes or of DNA in every cell, every living cell of your body. And I'll get to what that means in a later installment of this class. Okay, so you have two pairs of genes for hair color. You have two pairs of genes for your skin color, and you have two pairs of genes, if I can maneuver this, for your eye color. All right, so brown eye color is dominant, green and blues are recessive. So my father actually does have green eyes, but my mom has brown eyes, so I have brown eyes. Look at my eyes. I'm really not scary, only when I want to be. So what's going on? So you have those 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs of chromosomes. Now, if your cells, if your parents had 46 chromosomes each, and they both gave you both 46 pairs of chromosomes, you would have, what is that, 92? I think that's 92 pairs of, 92 chromosomes, right? 46 plus 46 is 92. 92 chromosomes. And then if you had a child with someone else, you'd have 92, they'd have 92. So 92, 92, that's 184, and so on and so forth. But that doesn't happen. You can't keep adding chromosomes to the next generation because your body, that's too much information. You can't do that. And so what happens is when a person makes their little spermies or their little eggs, they actually divide the chromosomes in half. That's awesome, cool, right? Yeah. And it has the same genes on it and everything. So ultimately, the person will have the same amount. They'll have the same amount as their father and their mother. So that we have 46 chromosomes regardless of the mother, the father, the grandfather, the great-grandfather. You're going to have the same amount. Now, when your cells die, what ends up happening is you're actually not going to divide in half, but you need to basically duplicate. Now, how do they duplicate? Well, they split in half, but then they just copy the same strand of DNA. So this is still the same strand of DNA. It's cool, awesome. And then what they'll do is they'll make a copy of it. So kind of think of like a copy machine, like just kind of running along, You see how it's like two different strands and I'm making it into one? There. So that's how we do it. So usually that copying process goes over perfectly. It doesn't matter. It's great. Everything's great. Now, sometimes, your DNA, it unwinds. Sorry, I'm getting my demo stuff ready. So it unwinds and it's copying. Is this the right part? It's copying, it's copying, it's copying. So it's copied. And then for whatever reason, oops. I want to put it right so that you guys can see it. Whatever reason, it inserts, this is black, you'll notice here, it inserts this new piece of DNA. And so it legitimately looks like it legitimately looks like this. It legitimately looks like this in the DNA. So I want you to think of when say that you're printing out a document, a PDF, an application form, maybe a bank statement or whatever, you're printing out a paper, and you go out to print a single page of that paper and it doesn't print. For whatever reason, it's not printing, and you press it like 7 times, and then the printer realizes, oh, oops, I need to print out page 7 like 6 times, and then out comes out of the printer, copy 1, copy 2, copy 3, copy 4, copy 5, copy 6, copy 7. It makes several copies of the same sequence. I don't know if you can read this here, but it reads GCA, 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 GCA. So that GCA stands for guanine, cytosine, adenine. Okay? So that's not right. That doesn't make sense. Why would it do that? It's just kind of a random thing, and we really don't know why it happens. But what ends up happening is it actually gets integrated into our DNA. Now, what is this segment called? It's called a short tandem repeat, okay? So short tandem repeat, why is it short? Look at that sequence here, GCA. That's a short sequence of DNA. Only 3 base pairs, only 3 little molecules big, guanine, cytosine, adenine. So they're in tandem, meaning that they're copied in tandem. It's GCA, then GCA again, then GCA again, then GCA again. So that's the tandem, and they're repeating. It's repeating it one and over and over and over and over. So STRs are these small segments of DNA that are repeating again and again and again. And now it is integrated into my DNA. You see here, my DNA is longer. Now, what's going on? So you still see here, I have my genes for my eyes, for my skin, and then my hair. All right. Oh, there's my hair. So they're still there. Now, what goes on? You inherit these like anybody else. You inherit all of this DNA. So you see here how genes are in blue, blue, blue. Why is that also in blue, Mark? Well, it's also in blue because genes, or STRs, I should say, excuse me, STRs are inherited like genes. Your eye color is inherited from your mom and your dad to you. Well, so is that STR. That STR is inherited just like any gene would be, because ultimately, this is now part of the DNA. This is now part of that DNA sequence. You can't get rid of it. You cannot get rid of it. It is in you forever. Okay? So that's what's going on. Now remember, is that sequence is not only on your mother's strand of DNA, let's say this is your mother's strand, but it's also on your father's strand. So you're inheriting 2 sets of STRs from both your father and your mother. all right? So I want you to think back, homozygous, heterozygous, just kind of keep those words in mind right now, okay? It'll come to be more important later. Now, I want you to think, well, what would have happened if I only got one repeat? That would be one repeat. I guess that's two repeats. And that's three repeats, and four, and five, and six, and so on and so forth. Well, what we can do is we can treat those like different alleles. Different alleles meaning brown eye color is an allele for eye color. Well, two repeats is an allele at this location in the DNA. Now, locations in the DNA are called loci or locus for singular. Locus, L-O-C-U-S, L-O-C-U-S. The plural is loci, L-O-C-I. So by looking at different locations on the DNA, I can find different STRs. All right. So up until a few years ago, we were looking at 16, I believe, 16 spots on our DNA where these STRs would occur. Now we look at 22 different spots. So why are we looking at 22 different spots? Well, I'll get to that in another lecture. Now just think of this. Now, your mother could have two repeats at this location in her DNA, but your father could have five. All right. We don't know. It doesn't affect our eye color, it doesn't affect our hair color, but we inherit these differences like we would any allele or any gene. All right. So the last thing I want you to look at is this is what we look at graphically when we're looking at STR profiles. So these purple rows at the top here, those are locations in the DNA. And I'm sure they have special names, you know, what VWA is, I don't even know, but they have special names that scientists give them. But if we kind of replaced the DS1358 with hair color and VWI with eye color and FGA with skin color, well, this top row that you're looking here with the 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, those numbers represent alleles. So if this first location in our DNA was for hair color, then I guess we could think of all these numbers as different hair colors that exist in the population. Same thing with eye color and skin colors. All these numbers represent different amounts of STRs that are found at these locations in the genes. All right, so the top row you're looking at shows the variability that exists within the population. The bottom row that you're looking at here, you'll notice that there's only a couple numbers. Well, you'll see here 15, 14, 16, and 24, 25. Those numbers mean the amount of repeats. So at this location here, there's 15 repeats. Why is there only one number? Well, that person is homozygous. That means that both their mom and their dad had 15 STR repeats at the DS31358 location, or we could say it's location A. At location A, both mom and dad gave this person the 15 repeats. Okay, so they're homozygous. Now let's move on to location B with the 14 and the 16. Well, that means that, well, their mom gave them maybe 14 and their dad gave them 16, or their dad gave them 14 and their mom gave them 16. We don't really know. We would have to get profiles from their mom and their dad, but it means that they're heterozygous, meaning they're different. So because they're different, they have different alleles, and we can see those alleles when we graphically look at it through our instrument or our machine. The same thing is what we're seeing with this last locus. So 24, 25, the mother gave 24, the father gave 25, or vice versa. So they're also heterozygous. So what we do is we look at the repeat profile and base it off of the amount of people in the population that also have homozygous 15 in that location, or heterozygous 14, 16 in the population, and 24, 25 in that population, to create statistics that allow us to say that we would expect to find this profile in 1 in 15 billion people, or quadrillion people, or gazillion people. So we're going to get into that kind of statistics and that multiplication in the next segment. But I just want to go over DNA, what STRs are, how we inherit them, and why do we see things like heterozygous and homozygous when it comes to DNA. All right? I hope you had a fun time, and we're going to close with some fun music. Alrighty, guys, I hope you had a good time. I'll see you guys later, and don't stop learning.